Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and good morning to everyone in the house. And how are you doing today? So let's quickly confirm that you can see my screen and you can hear my voice very clearly by typing hi in the comment section so that we can get this started. So if you can see my screen, you can hear my voice. Let's type in hi in the comment section and let's get this started. So what do we have here? All right. Okay. Good morning. Okay, innocent babe, good morning to you. Oh, glad to hear that. All right, I'm doing well. Fine, thank you. Trust you're doing well. All right. Okay. Good morning, Carrie. How are you doing today? Thank you for that confirmation. Oh, thank you, Carrie. Thank you, innocent babe. All right. And I think I saw someone saying that he or she does not know what we do here. Well, let me quickly give you a recap. We gather here every morning to prepare ourselves against the New York session by analyzing the pairs. And if you have any pair you want us to look at, you can feel free to drop it in the comment section and let's look at it together and make a decision on that regard. So this is what we do on a daily basis. So I would advise that you stay tuned in and always be part of the session. It starts 10 a.m. UTC, 11 a.m. West African time, and let's come together and do this. Okay. All right. Welcome to yet another promising session of Extreme Speed Live, hosted by my humble self, Sheriff Daramola. And as usual, I will be taking you on a trading journey in the next 1 hour, where we shall be evaluating the financial market using technical parameters to identify trading opportunities lining up for us during the New York session today. And as usual, we will be looking at the pairs we've been deliberating on. So we have some pairs that we've been monitoring since the beginning of the week. So we are going to be looking at how well these pairs are doing so far, and I will be sharing with you my thought process and what I think will likely going to be happening during the New York session today. So I'll advise you to stay tuned in so that you don't miss out on any of these advices or ideas that I will be sharing with you. If you have any pair you want us to look at, it could be a pair, it could be a commodity, an option, cryptocurrency, whatsoever it is, feel free to drop it in the comment section and I will be using my technical skills to identify trading opportunities lining up for us during the New York session. So that being said, let's dive into the chart and let's see what is happening from a technical standpoint. Okay, so let's move into the chart. So what's the first pair we are going to be deliberating on today? The first pair we're going to be deliberating on is the US oil. And what has happened on the US oil? Well, things has been moving fantastically well for us since the beginning of the week, as we've been able to scoop in about a minimum of about, let's see, a minimum of over 400 pips here, and we have multiple entries running on the US oil, so you definitely will be running in close to about 8,000 pips thereabout on the US oil. So let's quickly look at what our expectations were during the live session yesterday. And during the live session yesterday, where were we? All right, so during the last session yesterday, we saw our price has been consolidating right around the $89.50, and we had a couple of perspectives that we wanted to be looking out for. And because of the multiple rejection we saw at the $88 level in the last 24 hours prior to the live session yesterday, we were looking forward to how price is going to relate to the structure. So we had a scenario where we said that if price breaks above the $89 level, that is, we see a significant breakout of the structure, after which price retests the $89.50 or probably this bearish trend line, then we will be looking forward to taking advantage of that bullish momentum to the upside. And the other scenario was that if price breaks down the structure we identified on the lower time frame. Remember, we had this temporary bullish trend line on our 15 minutes time frame. Let me go back to the 15 minutes time frame. So here we have that temporary bullish trend line. We said if price breaks down that trend line and then does a retest of that structure, we want to be joining the decline to the downside, and that is exactly what happened as we finally saw the breakdown of that trend line, hereby pushing price to as far as how many pips that is. That was about over 300 pips during the course of yesterday's trading session. We saw that price move down and it was close to our take profit target zone, which we said is around the key level at the $86 area. Well, some of you would have actually closed your trade at that point, and like I told you, we want to be seeing how participant is going to be relating to the structure. If the structure is going to be that level that will be inciting the second wave of the bullish momentum that started last week. So now what did we see here? Let's see what has been happening in the last 24 hours. But first of all, I would like to scale up to the higher time frame for the sake of those who were not part of the session yesterday and probably the days before yesterday, so that they can actually have a look, a better perspective into what our expectations were and what we were looking out for before we made the decision we made at the beginning of the week. So the first thing I want to do here is to scale up to the higher time frame, and let's see what the structure we have on the daily time frame says. So on the daily time frame, the first thing we observed was that price has been on a very strong bullish momentum, and as a result of this, we were able to identify this bullish trend line after connecting the series of higher lows here, and that gave us that resultant bullish trend line that we have been using to guide our action for a couple of months now. However, when we zoom close into the structure and see what has been happening since the month of June, we can see that we have a bearish structure after connecting the series of lower highs here, and we can see how price has consistently respected that level, hereby resulting into lower lows and lower highs. And we can see that this move collapsed right back into the bullish trend line during the course of last month. We saw a couple of rejection before we saw the breakdown of that trend line, giving us a clue that there might be a bearish momentum coming in. However, the last week trading session saw price break out of that structure to the upside, turning this breakdown of the bullish trend line to be a false breakdown. So now, in addition to the structure we identified here, the other thing I was able to do was to identify a very significant level at the $86 area. And if we look into the past and see how this level has been, we can see how participants has used this level to determine price movement. If we go to as far as the I think later part of last year, we saw the rejection of this level. We saw the rejection of this 86 level. We saw the breakout during the early days of the month of February this year, and since then price has consistently respected that level. So last week we finally saw the breakout of that structure to signal that a bullish momentum is hereby coming in. And one thing about the bullish momentum we identified last week was more or less as a result of the OPEC Plus meeting last week, where a decision was made that they want to be cutting the oil production. So, and because of the oil production, definitely what do we expect? We expect that there will be a spike in price because there will be short of oil and the demand is going to rise, which will definitely result into a spike in price. So since last week we saw this impulsive move which came right back above the bullish trend line, break above the bearish trend line as well, and also the key level at the $86 level, hereby rising to as far as the $93 area. And what does this tell us about this current structure? Well, one thing significant about this area was the breakout of the structure. We can see how that level has been, price broke out of the key level at $86 level, broke out of the bearish trend line, and climbed right above that bullish trend line as well, making that area an area to focus on. So since the breakout of that structure that we have here, from a technical standpoint, whenever we cite a breakout of structure, what do we expect? We expect that price is likely going to come back and do a retest of the structure in such a way that price will be forming patterns on lower time frame that will be supporting a trend continuation to the upside. And since then, we have seen since the beginning of the week, after price has tested the $93 level around here, we have been enjoying this bearish momentum to the downside. And one thing I want to tell you about this bearish momentum is that this bearish momentum is likely going to be a retracement of this previous impulse leg that we saw here. But one thing that we don't know about this current structure is that we don't know how far this bearish momentum is going to go. Is it going to get back to the structure that was broken last week before we start seeing that bullish momentum to the upside? Or is it going to respect that key level at the $86 level one more time, or the bullish trend line here, after which we look out for patterns on lower time frame to join the rally to the upside? So these are the things we were looking forward to for this week. So we scaled down to a much lower time frame to begin to see things more clearly. And one thing we observed on the 4 hours time frame was that as soon as price tested the $93 level, which was here last week, we have seen that since the beginning of the week, price was caught within a consolidation phase right between the $91.50 area and the $93.50 level. And what we said at the beginning of the week was that we want to be waiting for a signal to happen, and the signal is likely going to come either in the form of a breakout of this channel to give us a signal that the bullish continuation pattern is coming in, or probably we're going to be having a breakdown retest of the structure to join the decline to the downside. But lo and behold, the breakdown of that channel was what happened, and that incited the opportunity to join a trend continuation to the downside. So since the beginning of the week, we have continued to sell the US oil, looking at the current structure that we have here. So, and as we have taken the sell opportunity on the US oil here, we have our take profit target sitting right around the $86 level, which I shared with you was a very significant level on the higher time frame. Remember, I showed you how important that key level was on the higher time frame and how it has been determining how price action is going to move since the later part of last year. So we want to see how price action is going to relate to the structure. Are we going to be having a situation where once price gets into this level, we'll continue to see a consolidation phase of multiple rejection of this area that will be giving us a clue that buyers have come in here and participants in this market have seen this level cheap enough to buy the US oil, and a breakout retest of structure on lower time frame will be sending price go to the upside. That is the first scenario. And then the second scenario is probably we could be having a breakdown of the structure, after which a retest will be sending price going to the downside. So at this point, we don't know how price is going to relate to that level, so we need to cross our fingers and wait. But in the meantime, we have our take profit target around the $86 level. And if we look at what happened during the New York session yesterday, we saw that price was close to the take profit target that we chose. So simply, it's more or less an area around the $86 level. So what I said yesterday was that we should be having our take profit target around that area. So some people would have closed. I think I have some couple of people who contacted me and told me that they've closed their trade at that point. Well, if you have closed that trade at that point, well, it's okay. You must have had quite a lot of pips to call your own as at the end of the New York session yesterday. But however, what has been happening in the last 24 hours? Well, after this impulsive move that we took advantage of yesterday, I think we took about 300 pips thereabouts on this move to the downside here. What has happened since the later part of the New York session was that we started seeing a situation where price appears to be doing a retracement of that impulsive move. And since then, price has been caught within a consolidation phase right around the 88 and the $87 area since yesterday. And what did we see? Price came back to do a retest of the $88 level. And remember how important that $88 level has been. Well, let me quickly share with you what this current structure looks like. Well, the first thing we observed on the current structure was that we had this bearish trend line, and we have this temporary bearish trend line. And as we can see, since price broke down that bearish trend line on Monday, we have seen that price has continued to respect that bearish trend line, hereby emphasizing the strength of the sellers at this point. So we saw that happen yesterday as well. Price respected that bearish trend line to push price to the downside. Now, look at the structure also. Remember, we had the structure identified yesterday where we've been seeing rejection of that level by the buyers, where we were thinking probably if a breakout of this area happens or breakout of this bearish trend line, we might be looking forward to a bullish momentum, but that did not happen. Price respected, and then we saw the breakdown of the $88 level. And from a technical standpoint, whenever we cite a breakdown of a structure like this, what do we expect? Yes, we expect that price is likely going to come back and do a retest of that structure in such a way that we will be having a trend continuation to the downside after citing multiple rejection of this area, or probably evolving into a reversal pattern that will be giving us a situation to sell the US oil one more time. And if we look at the structure at the $88 level here, we can see how that level also lines up with the bearish trend line that we identified here. So we have three parameters around this area. We have the bearish trend line. We also have the structure that's been holding bullish expectation in the last 24 to 48 hours, and then price comes back into that area and rejects that area. If we scale down to the 15 minutes time frame, we will see that we had multiple rejection of that level. Hold on a second, let me scale down to the 15 minutes time frame so you can what happened here. You can see how that level was rejected a couple of times, in fact multiple times here during the early hours of today before we started seeing that structure. So what I did at that point when I cited that was to join the decline from that area. So I've already had another position running from this point, and let's see how this move is going to happen. So if you are taking advantage of that move right from this area, well, kudos to you for being on standby to take advantage of that move, as you will currently be in about let's say it's about 87 pips, 75 pips thereabout, which is not bad. So let's see how price action plays out. So since the beginning of the week, we have been enjoying this bearish momentum. We took this first one, we took the second one here, we took the third one around this area, we took the fourth one yesterday, and it appears we have in the fifth one at this point. So we have multiple entries on the US oil for this week, and our take profit target still remains around the $86 level. So let's see if price is going to get to that point before we'll now start looking at how the structure is going to be like. Like I said, we have two expectations right at the $86 area. We could be having multiple rejection of that level to send price go to the upside, breaking out of that bearish trend line that we have here, a retest to structure confirming that the second wave of the bullish momentum that started last week. Remember, we had this bullish momentum that started last week around this area. So we had this bullish move last week. Price comes back. We don't know if this is going to be where price will be inciting the second wave of that bullish momentum. So let's wait and see how price is going to relate to that level. And then if price breaks down that level, then that will probably give us a bearish signal. But remember, we are not getting too excited when price breaks down the $86 level, as a retest of structure will be giving us confirmation to add more position to our existing trade. So let's see what happens afterwards as we head into the New York session. The bearish trend line here continues to be our guide going forward. Now, remember, we are on a very strong bullish momentum at this point. So let us look at the second scenario that is likely going to be happening around the $88 level here. So if you are taking advantage of this $88 move at the beginning of the UK session today, well, I would be advising you that you should move your stop loss to break even at this point. All your stop loss, if you still have open position since Monday, you want to move all your stop loss to somewhere right above the $88 level. And the reason why we are moving our stop loss to around the $88 level is simply because of how important this level is. So why is it so important? Well, I shared with you earlier that this level also shares a confluence with that bearish trend line. So there is a possibility that price might break out of that trend line. And if we have a breakout of that trend line, which also shares a confluence with the $88 level, then we might be seeing this as a bullish signal. And remember, we are not getting too excited when we sight a signal like this. We want to wait for further confirmations to happen, either in the form of a retest of the $88 level or probably the bearish trend line one more time before we start looking out for patterns on lower time frame to join the rally to the upside. And if this happens, then we might be seeing this as the second wave of that bullish momentum that started last week. So this is my expectation on the US oil for today. If you have any questions whatsoever regarding what I've discussed so far, feel free to drop in your inquiries in the comment section, and let's see how I can be of help to make things more simpler for you to understand. So I'll be taking the next 10 to 15 seconds to read through the charts to see if there are any questions whatsoever, and if there are none, we shall be moving on to the next pair. Okay, 359 the house, good morning to you. How are you doing today? Did I see you yesterday? I'm not sure I saw you yesterday anyways, but trust you are doing well. So 319, good morning. 687, good morning. 280, good morning. 328, good morning to you all. Okay, 964, good morning. All right, so in the absence of no question, I guess we move on to the next pair. So what's the next pair we are going to be looking at? So the next pair we are going to be looking at is the US tech. So what is happening on the US tech? So moving into the chart here, on the US tech, we are still profitable anyways, but it appears that the buying pressure around this area is still, the buyers are still trying to make a statement on this point. Though we entered this trade right around here at the beginning of the week, we had one situation here, we had another situation here, and as at yesterday, where were we? As at yesterday, we were around here yesterday, where price was already going back to our entry zone. And remember, yesterday I told you that you should move your stop loss to the break even position, that is moving your stop loss to your entry zone. And since then, price is here to come back into our entry zone. And one thing I shared with you yesterday at this point is that if you had missed the move we took advantage of on Monday, that we want to wait for a breakdown of the $10,850 level, after which a retest to structure will be giving us a confirmation to join the decline. Or if you are still in this trade, you might want to add one more position to this trade. Well, that was exactly what happened. We saw the breakdown of the $10,850 area during the New York session yesterday. We saw a retest of that structure, and price has continued to the downside from there. So with the situation we have here currently, if we look at what has been happening since Monday, we are in about 130 pips in profit right now. So what I'll be advising us to do is to move our stop loss to somewhere right above the $10,850 level to lock in some profits at this point. And the reason why I'm saying that we should move our stop loss to that area is simply, if we look at the structure we have here, though price has been trading below the $10,950 level since the beginning of the week, but one thing we should take note of at this point is how the price has been rejecting the $10,700 level. So we can see there are buying attempts around this area. Let me show you. Let me give you a visual representation. So we have been witnessing buying pressure from this area. So there is a likelihood that we could be having a bullish momentum from this point. So the bullish momentum will definitely come in the form of a breakout of that structure, but we don't know if that is really going to happen. So we want to be patient on this one. And the other thing we also want to take note of is this bearish trend line that has been holding price action since the beginning of the week. We can see we had the first rejection here. Sorry, we had the first rejection at the beginning of the week here. We had a second rejection. We saw the third rejection during the course of yesterday's trading session. And during the early hours of today, a breakout of that bearish trend line has happened. So with the breakout of that trend line, we don't know if this is going to turn out to be a false breakout or probably a confirmed breakout of that structure. So we don't know yet. Now that we have moved our stop loss to break even or somewhere around it above the $10,850 area, what is going to be our plans for today on the US tech? As usual, we will scale up to the higher time frame. Let's see what is really happening from a higher perspective, after which we will now be making our decision on this one. So going to the daily time frame here, the first thing we observe on the daily time frame is that price action has been bearish since the beginning of the year, and as a result of that, we have that bearish trend line. To connect the series of lower highs here to give us that structure we just have here. But something interesting happened since the month of June, as we see how the $11,000 level has been a major area for buying power. So we saw the rejection of this area by buyers in the month of June, and we saw something like that close to that area in the month of July. If we fast forward into the month of September, we started seeing multiple rejection of this level as well, to give us a clue into how strong that level is for buying power. But during the later part of yesterday, sorry for that breaking transmission. I just had to attend to my baby, but it's all fine now. So looking at the structure we have here, we can see that price is still somewhere around the demand zone, though we have a little breakdown of that structure around here since the beginning of the week. So we need to be very, very mindful of how we trade the US tech at this point. So what we are going to be doing today is to see how this area is going to be, looking at the structure we have on the lower time frame. Well, from a technical standpoint, since we are still around the demand zone, there is a possibility that a bullish momentum could be coming in from this area. So we want to be looking forward to a breakout of structure, breakout, retest of structure on lower time frame to take advantage of any bullish momentum from the demand zone around here. So that's one thing we want to look at. And we will not ignore the fact that a bearish momentum could likely happen if a breakdown of this demand zone happens as well. So we are going to be taking those two scenarios into consideration. So in order to have a better perspective into this, the next thing we'll do is to scale down to the lower time frame. And on the lower time frame here, that is the 1 hour time frame, look at what has been happening since the beginning of the week. We saw our price has been consolidating right within the $11,050 area and the $10,950 level before we finally saw the breakdown retest of that structure to inform us that we can be selling the US tech. Even though price has been trading right below the $10,950 level, look at what has been happening here since in the last 48 hours. We can see, like I showed you earlier, we can see how this level has been a demand niche for participants in this market. So what I'll be doing right here is to identify the structure. So I will not be advising us to take any sell momentum again for the New York session today, unless we cite a breakdown of this demand zone. So we have a demand zone here right now. Hold on a second. Is this good? Or I should make it a black color, and then so that we can see things more clearly. So we have something like this. So we have a demand zone around this area. So I will not be advising us to sell the US tech anymore. So whatever position you are in right now, move your stop loss to somewhere right above the $10,850 level. Even if price breaks out of that structure, we will be at least in about 60 pips in profit thereabout, which is not bad at all, rather than losing out on whatever we've gained so far since the beginning of the week. So on the US tech, we are not going to be selling the US tech during the New York session today unless we have a breakdown of this demand zone. That is, if we cite a breakdown of this demand zone in such a way that price takes out all the buy position around this area, then definitely we want to be seeing that move as a bearish signal. But remember, we don't want to get too excited at the sight of such a signal. We want to wait for price action to give us further confirmation in the form of a retest of the structure. So we could have a retest of this demand zone or somewhere around here, but the most important thing we look out for reversal patterns on lower time frame. Then we can actually join the decline or add more position if we are still in the existing trade. So this is the first scenario we are looking forward to. So we are only going to sell if we cite a breakdown of the demand zone, because that will give us a leverage that the buying positions around this here have been taken out right around that area. And one thing we should also notice that right below the $10,850 is below the demand zone we identified on the daily time frame. So this $10,850 level is also a very significant level to watch out for either selling opportunities or buying opportunities around this area. So to buy the US tech, what do we want to be seeing to buy the US tech? Well, like I said, the $10,850 is just right below the demand zone we identified on the daily time frame. So what this simply means is that once price gets right above the $10,850 level, then we are in a region where there is a memory for buying possibilities. So if that happens, that is, we cite a breakout of this we already saw a breakout of this trend line already, but I still need to see something very significant in the form of a bullish engulfing candle taking us right out of the structure. That is taking us right back above the $10,850 level. Then I want to be seeing that as a bullish move. However, we are not going to get too excited. We want to wait for further confirmations to happen, which is likely going to come in the form of a retest of that structure, or probably retest of this demand zone area, and most importantly, look out for patterns on lower time frame that will be supporting a trend continuation to the upside. So the only time I want to be buying the US tech is to look out for a breakout of that $10,850 area. Then we want to be joining the bullish momentum that might be happening at that point in time. So that is my perspective on the US tech. So if you have any question, please feel free to drop your inquiries in the comment section, and let's look at this together. So that is that on the US tech. I will be looking at the chat section in a moment to see if there are any questions before we move on to the next pair. So okay, hi Max is in the house. Good afternoon to you. Hi Max, how are you doing? Then we have 775 in the house. Good morning to you. Trust you're doing well. Golden Bay 101, good morning. 03064. Do someone have a good advice? Okay, all right. Innocent Babe, is it possible to check gold and Bitcoin before the end of the session? Of course, we are going to check gold. Gold is going to be, I think, our next pair now. We are going to look at gold. Remember we took gold yesterday. We have been monitoring gold since Monday, so definitely we are going to see how well gold is doing so far, and then I'll be sharing my thought process on how I intend to trade. For the Bitcoin, let's see how time goes. If I'm able to run through all the pairs we've been monitoring since Monday, then definitely I would hop into gold and let's see what is happening on the Bitcoin rather. Okay, all right, so let's move on to the gold chart. So what's happening on the gold? So looking at the gold now, we have a situation that is looking very, very dicey at this point. Though we've been on a very bearish momentum since the beginning of the week, and where are we as at yesterday? Let me see. Where were we as at yesterday? We were around okay, we were around the $1,670 level, and at the $1,670 level we were waiting for a breakdown of that level to give us a signal to add more position to our existing trade here. And at the live session yesterday, I told us to move our stop losses somewhere right above the $1,675 level, and it appears that we have been taken out of our existing position on the XAUUSD. So as at yesterday, we expected that price will break down this level, that $1,670 level, to give us a signal, after which a retest of structure will be giving us confirmation to join the decline to the downside. But till this moment, that has not happened. So let's quickly look at what we should be planning against the New York session today. Well, the first thing I will do here, let me delete this. Let me have a clean chart. I'll delete this as well. Okay. So let's quickly run through the higher time frame. Let's see what's happening on the higher time frame. Then we'll move down to make a decision on the XAUUSD. So here we are on the higher time frame. Since the beginning of the year, it's obvious that price action has been on a very strong bearish momentum since the beginning of the year, as you can see. And as a result of this, we were able to connect the series of lower highs here to give us that resultant bearish trend line. And when we zoom into the structure, the bearish trend, the latest respect of the bearish trend line here, and during the course of last week's trading session, we saw multiple rejection of that level to incite a possible trend continuation to the downside. And if we scale down to the 4 hours time frame, we saw the reversal pattern around that around the bearish trend line we identified on the daily time frame. So we saw this reversal pattern here, which is in the form of a double top structure. So we had a reversal pattern formed as at the beginning of this week. Sorry, at the end of last week, a reversal pattern was formed there. Then we saw the breakdown of the neckline of that reversal pattern at the $1,705 level, and since then price has continued to trend to the downside. Now, in addition to the structure we identified on the daily time frame, remember I identified this very important key level at the $1,680 level. So we have the $1,680 level here, which has been the major determinant of price action since the month of August. We saw how this level was a buying niche for participants at one point in time. We saw it, buyers rejected that level again in the month of September. Then we witnessed the breakdown retest of that level in the later part of the month of September, before we witnessed the breakout of that key level one more time during the course of last week's trading session. So with the structure we have here and the breakout of that key level, from a technical standpoint, we expect that price will retest that structure. But what happened was interesting, as we saw price break down that key level one more time to push price right into the $1,670 level. And for us that took advantage of the sell momentum right below the $1,680 level, I told you that we were having our TP target somewhere around here, which falls around the golden zone area, which is right within the 50 and the 78.6% of the previous impulse leg. So if we run our Fibonacci retracement tool through the impulse leg here, we have between the 50 and the 78.6% as our impulse, as our take profit target if we are going to be selling this. And what this simply means is that this area will also be serving as a buy zone. So there is a possibility that this area will be serving as a buy zone, considering the golden zone area. The retracement back into that level, because we cannot ignore the fact that we have this impulsive move to the upside. And if you look at the candles within the impulsive move, we have like 3 impulsive candle. We have 1 here, 2 here, 3 here. So the strength of the buyers at that particular point in time were very, very strong, and the impulsive move to the downside here could likely be the retracement of that impulse leg. So if we have that retracement here, then definitely if we continue to see multiple rejection of this area, then it could turn out to be a reversal pattern that is likely going to be sending price go to the upside. But one thing I stated here yesterday was that I won't be buying the XAUUSD, considering the fact that the XAUUSD has been on a very strong bearish momentum since the beginning of the year, and the only thing that will make me to buy the XAUUSD, it's only if I cite a breakout of the very significant key level we have here at the $1,680 level. So if a breakout of that level happens, we still need to be very, very mindful, as anything could still happen. I want to see a retest of that structure to happen with multiple rejection that is showing attempts by the buyers to push price to the upside, and sellers are unable to break below that level. Then a breakout retest to structure on lower time frame will be confirming the trend continuation to the upside. I will show you something on the 4 hours time frame that is also making me doubt any bullish potential at this point. So even if a breakout of the $1,680 level happens, remember we have this neckline here of the reversal pattern we identified last week. And what do you expect whenever we cite a reversal pattern? So we have a double top structure, we have a breakdown of the neckline, moving price right into this area. So there is a possibility that price might come back into this neckline area, that is from a technical standpoint, and do multiple rejection to send price go to the downside. So that is why I said I am still going to be very mindful of taking any buy position at this point in the market. So even if I cite a breakout of the $1,680 level, I want to be waiting for further confirmations before I can join that rally to the upside, and that is price comes back, does a retest of either this trend line or probably this key level, and we see that sellers were unable to break below the $1,680 level, after which a breakout retest to structure on lower time frame will be confirming that at this point buyers are very, very strong. But if that does not happen, I will continue to look for selling momentum right below the $1,680 level. So let's scale down to the 1 hour time frame and let's see what our plans is going to be like for the New York session today. So right now we are on the 1 hour time frame, and let's see what we have here. So this is the 1 hour time frame. Let me delete this, it's no longer relevant. And then one thing we will observe here on the 1 hour time frame is this. Well, the week started at around this area, at around the $1,700 level, which I missed. I actually missed that move, and we saw hold on a second, we saw our price had moved from that level, $1,700 level, into the $1,672 area, and that is quite a strong impulsive move since the beginning of the week. And since then, price has been caught within a consolidation phase right between the 1,672 area and the very important key level we identified on the higher time frame at the $1,680 level. And we saw the second touch of the key level here on Tuesday, and since then price has found it difficult to come back into go as far as where the key level is. So we've been seeing, we saw a higher low, and there has been a multiple rejection of the $1,675 level since the retest of the structure during the Tuesday trading session. So we can see since then price has been unable to come back into that structure. So the $1,675 level is more or less a very significant level to look out for selling opportunities at this time. As we can see, we have been seeing multiple rejection of this level. We saw one here, we saw another one here, another one is happening right now. So how do we sell this if we are going to be selling the US? Like I told you, I'm not going to be buying unless I see a breakout of the 1,680. So right now, how do we intend to sell this? Well, before we start thinking of selling the XAUUSD, we need to consider something here. Look at what has been happening at around the 1,660. I think this is 1,662, not 72. This $1,662 level. So look at what has been happening around the $1,662 area. We saw the first rejection by the buyers. We saw the second rejection, and since then price has been finding higher lows, and as a result of that we have this temporary bullish trend line. So what does this tell us? It tells us that there is tendencies of buying opportunity here. And remember, on the daily time frame I shared with you how that area also lines up with the buy zone that we identified after running our Fibonacci retracement tool, and then we had that area. So we need to be very mindful of the structure at this point. So if we are going to be selling this because of the fact that we are seeing multiple rejection of the $1,675 level, if we are going to be selling that, we want to wait for a signal to happen. We need to be very patient here. So we need to wait for a signal to happen, and I think that a signal will happen in the form of the breakdown of this trend line. So if I cite a breakdown of this trend line, I want to see this as a bearish signal. And remember, we are not getting too excited at the sight of such a breakdown of structure. We want to wait for confirmations to happen, which is likely going to come in the form of a retest of the structure. It could come back into this area. It could come back into the $1,675 level. But the most important thing is that we saw the breakdown of that structure, giving us a clue that the sellers are still existing in this market. So if the breakdown happens, retest of structure, we look out for patterns on lower time frame, then we could actually join the decline to the downside. And if the decline continues to the downside and a breakdown of the $1,662 level happens, then a retest of the structure will give us another opportunity to add more position to our existing trade. So this is how I intend to sell the XAUUSD going into the New York session today. So I will be waiting for further confirmations to happen in the form of a breakdown of that structure before I want to be joining the decline. However, if at any point in time a break above of this key level happens, that's the key level here, a breakout of that key level happens, we want to be patient enough to see how price is going to relate with both this trend line and the neckline here before we make a decision to buy. So if a breakout retest happens, we want to sell, place our take profit target somewhere around here, and let's see how price relates to the structure here before we now make a decision to either buy or add more position to our existing trade. So that is that on the XAUUSD. If you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to drop in your inquiries in the comment section, and I hope Innocent Babe is still around, and let's see how this goes. So let me quickly run through the charts and let's see what is happening. Are there any questions? If there are none, then we just move on to the next pair. So okay, all right. Lucia Panzaru is asking for silver. Yes, we are going to look at silver as well. We've been monitoring silver since Monday, so definitely we are going to look at silver. So let's move on to the next pair here. The next pair we are going to be looking at. Okay, Innocent. All right, Innocent Babe, I'm glad you're around. Okay, so let's move on to the GBPUSD. On the GBPUSD, we were stopped out yesterday in a loss as price broke out of that structure. So we are in a loss on the GBPUSD as we continue to expect that bearish momentum to happen, considering the long-term bearish perspective we have here. So let's quickly see what our expectations were. As at yesterday, we were around here as at yesterday, and we took advantage of the breakdown retest of the structure. So we took advantage of the breakdown retest, and price came in a little bit into our entry zone, and price continued to find higher highs, hereby breaking right above the 1.1100 level to take us out of our existing trade here. So at this point in time, what is going to be our plans as we head into the New York session? I want you to remember what I told you here yesterday regarding the 1.11100 level, which is this level here. we can see since the beginning of the week, price has been respecting that level. Look at what has been happening. Since the beginning of the week, we had a situation where price rejected that level, though we had a significant breakout of that level on Tuesday. Then price came back again to reject that level, and right now in the last 2 hours now, we have seen another breakout of that 1.1100 area. And what this simply tells us is that there is a tendency for buyers to take price right out of the structure. As we can see, all selling attempts from this area has been met with stiff resistance from the buyers from this level. So what I want to be looking forward to at this point, and this is going to be for counter trend traders, for those who love doing counter trend, well, we want to be seeing a breakout, significant breakout of the structure. We don't want to take advantage of that unless a retest of structure happens, give us a confirmation, then we could actually join that counter trend trade into the sell window here with a take profit target somewhere between the 1.12 area and the 1.1400 level. Now, if you are not a counter trend trader, then definitely I will be suggesting that you wait for price to come within the sell window here, after which we want to be looking out for reversal pattern within this area to join the sell continuation to the downside. And why have I said that we want to be looking forward to a sell continuation to the downside, and why not continue this bullish momentum to the upside? Well, I will show you that in a moment. Let's scale up to the 4 hours time frame. Now, looking at what we have here on the 4 hours, first of all, let's go to the daily time frame. Looking at what we have here on the daily time frame, it is very obvious that price action has been on a very strong bearish momentum since the beginning of the year. And one thing, the most important structure that I want to share with you is the 1.1400 level. If we look at the 1.1400 area, we saw how this level was broken during the mid-month of September. We saw the breakdown of that structure to incite a bearish momentum. And what happened last week was quite interesting, as price came back into that 1.14 area to reject it one more time to push price to the downside. And what does this tell us? It tells us that the sellers are still very strong in this market. So because of this, we want to still be looking for selling opportunities at this point. And as a result of that, we cited this bearish move. We saw this impulsive move to the downside. We take into consideration that impulsive move by running our Fibonacci retracement tool through that impulsive move, and we identify somewhere within the golden zone area, that is somewhere around the 50 and the 78.6% of that previous impulse leg, as an area we want to be looking for selling opportunities. That is a sell continuation of what we saw here. So if we cite a reversal pattern here, we want to be joining the decline to the downside around that area. Now, there is something here on the 4 hours time frame. Okay, so on the 4 hours time frame here, the first thing we observe here is that we have a reversal pattern here. Following the impulsive move to the downside, we have this reversal pattern. And then we saw the breakout of the neckline of the reversal pattern at the 1.0900 level, pushing price right back into the 1.14, and price has come to do a retest of that key level, which is the neckline here. And since then, we have been seeing attempts by the buyers to push price to the upside here. So in as much as we are looking for selling opportunities within the sell window here, now we already have a breakout of the 1.1100 level. And if we look closely into the structure, you can see what I'm seeing here. I'm seeing something that looks like a reversal pattern here. We have this impulsive move. We have this first touch, second touch. You can see we have a reversal pattern here as well. So one thing I'll be saying here is that since we're already having a breakout of the structure, let's remain patient and wait for a retest of the structure. If a retest of the structure happens, reversal patterns here on the lower time frame will be giving us the leverage to join the bullish momentum with the take profit target sitting right within the sell window here. And if our take profit target sits right within the sell window and price continue to trend to the upside, we will continue to extend our TP to maximize the profit. So if price continue to move to the upside, we continue to extend our TP, extend it to as maximum at 1.14. If price continues towards that direction, we continue to extend our TP, and if that could likely turn out to be the second wave of this bullish momentum. So let's see what happens as price is being monitored at this point. So what I said here is this. Let me quickly do a recap of what I said here. So if a breakout of the structure happens, that's a signal. We want to wait for price to give us a confirmation here, after which we look out for patterns on lower time frame to join the rally to the upside. We have our take profit target within this area, and if price continue to move in our direction, we continue to move our take profit, extend our TP, and move our stop loss to protect our position. But if at any point in time during this sell window area we start noticing reversal pattern around this area, then we want to get ready to sell. And if the reversal pattern does not happen, or probably multiple rejection of this area does not happen, then we want to be comfortable in our buy position. So that's simply what I'm trying to say here on the GBPUSD. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop in your inquiries. Then let's move on to the next pair. So the next pair we're going to be looking at is the silver. So if Lucica is still around, we want to talk about the silver. I'll talk about the silver right now. So on the silver, what do we have here on the silver? The silver has been bearish since the beginning of the week, and let's see what happened. Let's see what happened on the 1 hour time frame. We have been enjoying this bearish momentum since the beginning of the week. So though we missed this one at the very beginning of the week as price moved significantly before we started our live session, and we saw a consolidation phase here before we cited the breakdown retest of the structure, and since then we've been enjoying this bearish momentum to the downside on the XAGUSD. So right now, with the current structure we have here, what is going to be our expectation? Well, the first thing I will say here is that for those who are still in this trade, the one thing you want to be doing right now is to move your stop loss to protect your position, and I think somewhere around the $19.30 area looks most appropriate, which will be about how many pips that is. That's around over 420 pips thereabout. So let's see what happened from this point. Now, going into the New York session today, the current structure that we have here is telling us that there is a bullish momentum coming in here. And why did I say that? So we saw this impulsive move to the downside. Price tested the $18.90 area. We saw the first touch here during the New York session yesterday. Now we saw the second touch here during the early hours of today to give us something that looks like a double bottom structure. And whenever we sight a double bottom structure like this, we expect to identify the neckline of that double bottom structure, which will now definitely be our yardstick going forward. So in order to identify the neckline, we'll bring out our line chart here, and we have somewhere around this point as our neckline, which falls at around the $19 level. Now going back to our candle chart, what do we see here? We see a breakout of that structure has already happened. So we already have a confirmed reversal pattern. So we already have a breakout of the $19 level to give us a reversal pattern here. So if a retest of structure happen, then we want to be seeing this as a confirmation after multiple rejection of this level, or probably a structure on lower time frame that supports a trend continuation to the upside. So if that happens, we want to join the rally to the upside with our take profit target sitting somewhere around the $19.70 area. And the reason why we'll be having that area is simply because that is the structure that was broken on Monday. We saw the structure was broken on Monday here. So we saw the breakdown of the structure, and from a technical standpoint, whenever we sight a breakdown of structure like this, we expect that price is likely going to come back and do a retest of that structure to give us a confirmation of a trend continuation to the downside at this point. So let's see what happens at the $19.70 area if price get that far. If price get that far, we want to be looking for selling opportunities right from this area that will be pushing price to the downside on the XAGUSD. I'm trying to rush through this as I'm already out of time, and that is why I just have to explain things on the lower time frame. So if you want to see what we saw on the higher time frame that made us to be thinking of selling opportunities, you might want to look at my YouTube channel to see that on a larger perspective. So let's move on to the USDJPY before we call it a day. So on the USDJPY, we have been profitable on the USDJPY since yesterday, as we finally saw the breakout of the structure after waiting for over 3-4 weeks now, within a strong consolidation phase since the last month, and we saw this consolidation phase at the early hours of this week before we started the breakout retest of the 145.650 level, and we joined this move to the upside. And as at yesterday, I told you that if price comes back into the 146.200, we want to be adding more position to this trade. But since yesterday, we are yet to see price come back into the 146.200 area, which also lines up with the bullish trend line that we identified here. So what are we going to be looking forward to during the New York session today? Well, look at what happened here since yesterday. We saw that as soon as price got into this strong psychological level at the 147 Japanese yen level, we've continued to witness multiple rejection of that area by the sellers. And what does this tell us? It tells us that there is a clue of a strong selling pressure around that area, and this could be as a result of participants in this market who took advantage of the bullish momentum from this level. So they are looking at, okay, fine, I've made some money, let me do some quick sales to lock in some profit at this point. So this as a result of this, we don't know how far the selling momentum is going to go. So I was able to identify the 147 level. So let's see if we are going to have a retracement back into the bullish trend line, and if that happens, then we want to be looking for another opportunity to add more position to our existing trade. And like I told you, I want to continue to extend my TP accordingly. And the reason why I want to be extending my TP on the USDJPY is simply because we finally had a strong breakout of the supply zone, which has been holding price action for over a month. And from a technical standpoint like this, whenever we cite a breakout of a channel that has been holding for an extended period of time, we want to consider that breakout to be a very strong potential move, and that is likely going to be moving. It's going to be very massive. So in that regard, if price breaks above the 147 during the New York session today, what I want to be doing is to extend my TP further into the 149 area, and I'll move my stop loss accordingly to protect my position. And so what this simply means is that this bullish trend line we identified on the daily, on the 1 hour time frame for this week, will continue to guide our action going forward for this week. So that is that on the USDJPY. I continue to wait for bullish momentum here, but if at any point in time a breakdown of that bullish trend line happens, then a retest of structure might be giving us a situation of selling the USDJPY. But I'm not going to be selling yet, as we'll still need to monitor. Let's see how price action is going to relate to this current structure. So that is that on the USDJPY. I'm sorry I will not be able to take a look at the higher perspective with you because of the shortage of time that I have at this point in time. So let's quickly run through and do a recap of what we talked about so far today, and then we call it a day. So the first pair we looked at today was the US oil, and what was our expectation on the US oil. So well, I told you we have this bearish trend line which price has been respecting since the beginning of this week. So we saw the breakdown of this, and price has continued to respect this. So we entered here, we had another position here, we had another position here, we had another position here, and as of this morning I joined this decline around this area as well. So we have multiple entries running with our take profit target still sitting right around the $86 level. And the reason why I told you that we should be having our take profit target at this $6 level is simply because of how that level has been a major determinant of price action on the higher time frame. So we can see on the higher time frame how this key level has been a major determinant of price action. So we don't know if price is going to continue to respect that trend line, that key level, in such a way that we will be having multiple rejection of this level by the buyers to push price to the upside, hereby inciting the second wave of the bullish momentum that started last week. And if a breakdown of that key level happens, then we want to be looking forward to a retest of structure to add more position to our sell position on the US oil. So on the US oil, we still remain bearish on this one, and remember we have moved our stop loss to lock in some profit here so that we don't get caught up in any sudden pullback that might likely happen around this area. Then the other scenario which I shared with you here is that if price finally breaks out of the $88 level, which also shares a confluence with the bearish trend line that we have here, then we might likely be seeing this as a bullish continuation signal, that is the second wave of the bullish momentum might be getting ready to happen. And if that happens, we want to look forward to a retest of the $88 level or the bearish trend line here, after which we look out for patterns on lower time frame that supports a trend continuation to the upside. So this is how we want to trade the US oil. And then we moved on to the US tech, and on the US tech we're still profitable on the US tech. And the first thing I advise here on the US tech is that we should be moving our stop loss to protect our position. So I suggested that somewhere right above the $10,850 area seems most appropriate to be locking our position, and let's see how price action will relate to that structure. And the next thing we identified here was this demand zone. Despite the fact that we've been enjoying this bearish momentum since the beginning of the week, we can see that the $10,700 level has been a buying niche at the during the course of the week. So we can see every time price comes within this area, we have been seeing an attempt by the buyers to push price to the upside, and in fact we already have a breakout of this bearish trend line, but we are not going to be jumping into conclusions yet, as I said that we are still within a very strong demand zone that I identified on the higher time frame. So for us to buy this one, I want to see a significant breakout of the $10,850 level in such a way that price break out that level. Then a retest to structure will be giving us a confirmation to join the rally to the upside. So at this point, I told you that because of this demand zone we've identified here, we should stay clear of selling the US tech at this point. So let's wait and see if a breakdown of this demand zone happens. If a breakdown of this demand zone, that's a bearish signal, then a retest of structure which might line up with a bearish trend line here or the structure here, then we want to be looking out for patterns on lower time frame to join the decline to the downside. If that does not happen, that is, if we don't see a breakdown of the demand zone where price actually takes out all the buy position here, we want to stay clear from selling the US tech. Then we went on to talk about the XAUUSD, that is the gold. And on the gold, I'm still looking forward to a sell momentum on the gold. Like I told you, as long as price continues to trade right below the $1,680 level, I want to be looking for selling opportunities here. Now, going into the New York session today, we can see how the $1,675 level has been holding selling pressure since yesterday. So this is more or less a sign that sellers are very strong at this point, but we will not ignore the fact that we have been seeing buying pressure too as well from the $1,660 level, leading into higher lows here, and we already have this bullish trend line to guide that price action. So what I said here is that let us be very patient to wait for a bearish signal in the form of a breakdown of this bullish trend line, after which a retest to structure will be giving us confirmation to join the decline to the downside. And I said if price breaks down the $1,660 level, taking out all the buy position here, then a retest of structure will be giving us confirmation to add more position to our existing sell trade. Now, if you are thinking of buying the XAUUSD, I have told you that I will not be buying the XAUUSD unless I cite a breakout of this very important key level at the $1,680 area, after which if price comes back to reject this level, that is, sellers were unable to break down the key level, then definitely I want to be looking forward to buying after a breakout retest of that structure. But in as much as we are still on a very strong bearish momentum here on the XAUUSD, I'm still tending towards a bearish position here. And look at what we have here. I showed you this reversal pattern we identified on the daily time frame here with a neckline structure at the $1,705 level. And from a technical standpoint, whenever we cite a breakdown of a neckline like this, we expect that price might likely come back, do a retest to structure to send price go to the downside. So you can see why I said even if price breaks out of the $1,680 level, I will still be mindful of buying, as if price comes back to do the rejection of the neckline area here and I see a reversal pattern here, I will sell. Then I will monitor how price action will be relating to the key level at the $1,680 level. If we have multiple rejection, then we want to go get out of our sell position and buy the XAUUSD. But if a breakdown of the key level happens, then a retest of structure which lines up with the bearish trend line we identified on the daily time frame will be giving us an opportunity to add more position to our existing trade. So that is that on the XAUUSD. Then we went on to talk about the GBPUSD, where we're beginning to see buy pressure as price has broken right above the 1.1100 level. So with a breakout of the 1.11100 level, I have said that if a retest of the structure happens, where we start seeing multiple rejection of this level, then we want to be buying the GBPUSD with a take profit target sitting right around the sell window here. And I told you that if price continues to trend to the upside, then we want to be extending our TP to maximize the profit here. But if a sell structure happens here, that is price evolves into a reversal pattern here, then we want to be looking forward to selling, getting out of our buy position and selling the GBPUSD. And the reason why we are still looking at the possibility of a sell momentum here is simply because the GBPUSD has been on a very strong sell momentum in the last 1 year now. And at the same time, if we look at the current structure we have here, look at how important the 1.1400 level has been. Last week we saw the breakdown of that structure. 2 weeks ago we saw the breakdown of that structure, and last week price came back to respect that structure one more time to push price to the downside. So definitely this is giving us a clue that the sellers are still very strong in this market. So we are still tending towards a bearish momentum on the GBPUSD unless the position tells us otherwise. So then we move on to XAGUSD, where we've been enjoying a sell momentum since the beginning of the week. And the first thing I told you here is to lock in your profits at this point. And the reason why we are locking profits here is simply because of the buying pressure we have identified here, and it seems the current structure is evolving into a reversal pattern in the form of a double bottom structure. So we have the first touch, we have the second touch here, and we have the breakout of the neckline at the $19 area. So with the breakout of the $19 area, a retest of structure with multiple rejection of the $19 level will be giving us a leverage to buy the XAGUSD with a take profit target sitting right around the $19.70 area. And why are we having the $19.70 area as our take profit target? Well, we can see that since the breakdown of this level on Monday, price has continued to trade right below that level. So we want to see how price is going to relate to this level at this point. Are we going to be having reversal pattern here to send price to the downside, or are we going to be having a breakout of the structure that will be sending price to the upside? So these are the things we want to be looking at as events unfold. Then we close the day with the USDJPY, where we are already in profit. On the USDJPY, we are in about 115 pips in profit at this point, and the identification of multiple rejection of the 147 Japanese yen level is giving us a clue that selling pressure is coming in on this one. So let's see if we are going to be having a retracement back into either the 146.200 area or probably the bullish trend line here, after which we are going to be looking out for reversal patterns to join the rally to the upside on the USDJPY. So if you had missed this move on Monday, then definitely let's see if the market is going to give us another opportunity at a retest of structure to join the rally to the upside. But if that does not happen and a breakout of the 147 happens, then a retest of structure will give us a leverage to add more position to our existing trade or join the rally afresh. And like I told you, I want to continue to extend my TP if price breaks above the 147. And the reason I want to extend my TP is because I want to maximize the profit that we might be getting here. Remember, price has been on a very strong consolidation phase since the beginning of last month, and whenever we cite a breakout of a very strong consolidation phase like this, the move that is breaking out of that structure is likely going to be very, very massive. So we want to maximize the profit that we might be seeing here. So as soon as price continue to move in our direction here by breaking above the 147.00 level, we want to continue to add more position to our existing trade, and at the same time extending our TP and moving our stop loss to lock in some profit. So that is that on the USDJPY, and at this point I would like to call it a day. Thank you for being around. I really appreciate. I want to appreciate every single one of you, and at the same time I hope we are all prepared based on the possible scenarios I was able to identify, and let's get ourselves prepared to take advantage of these opportunities when they finally happen during the New York session. And one thing I want to say here is that don't get too excited when price action gives us that signal. It could be the bearish signal, it could be the bullish signal, that is price breaking out of the structure with an emphatic or an engulfing bearish or bullish candle. Please and please don't get too excited, as it could turn out to be a false breakout. So what we want to be doing is to be patient enough to wait for price action to give us that confirmation, which is likely going to come in the form of a retest of the structure before we want to be joining that potential momentum. And if the retest of structure does not happen, kindly pass the trade. There are quite a lot of opportunities in the market that we could take advantage of. So on this note, I want to wish you best of luck during the New York session today, and I look forward to seeing you here tomorrow, 10 a.m. UTC, 11 a.m. West African time, same place, extra speed live as usual. And let's come again to monitor price action and make a decision against the New York session tomorrow. So I wish you a wonderful day. Bye bye.